Greetings and welcome to the Fan Perspective. I'm your host Nathan Lyle, and this is WNBA Weekly, the show where every Monday I talk about things that have happened recently in the association and everything that I'm looking forward to in the upcoming days. And this past week has been one full of excitement. You've got the Connecticut Sun just continuing their dominance. They've now won 5 games in a row. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got the Atlanta Dream just keep losing every single game. I don't want to say I told you so, but I'm going to say it. I told you so. They've now lost 7 in a row. You combine that with Seattle, who had lost 5 in a row, and Chicago, they beat San Antonio, get their 3rd straight win, and they now jump into the playoff standings. And in that game, Allie Quigley had her 5th consecutive points assist double-double. The previous record was like 2, and she's now done it 5 in a row. And she could go even further with that, the way she's playing. Honestly, I want to bring up the whole MVP conversation again. I said this a couple years ago when Candace Parker took the first half of the season out, because now everyone's saying, oh, she missed too much time, she's not eligible. And that's why no one's talking about Quigley for it. But hey, when you look at how shitty the team performed before she got there and how they're basically winning every single game with her here playing at a high level, I think that qualifies. Like, she deserves it as much as anybody. I don't think you should measure MVP based on stats or games played. If you look just on the impact that they're having, Candace Parker deserved to get it that year. Courtney Vandersloot deserves to be a nominee this year. You look at the Sky, they have as many wins. They have like twice as many wins with her playing as they did when she was gone. Without Courtney in the lineup, the Sky had like 2 or 3 total wins. With Courtney playing and with her leading the league in assists, getting these double-doubles, they've had 2 separate 3-game winning streaks. And then you've got the added intrigue that the Storm fired their head coach Ginny Busick, which it's pretty much the only move that they could make when you look at all the talent on their roster. You've got like 2 guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famers in Sue Bird and Breanna Stewart, and a bunch of other potential Hall of Famers like Joel Lloyd. You know, they've got too much fucking talent on their roster to not be winning games. So Kloppenberg now in the head coach, at least for the rest of the season. I really don't like saying that guy's name. It's just hard for me to pronounce. But like, he's been in this league for a while. He's been on some successful teams. He's done a decent job in a head coaching role. Like, I think he's a good coach. I don't understand how he keeps being an assistant. I think it's just that he doesn't want to be a head coach. That's what it seems like most of the time. Either way, you already see them make headway. They played a game against the Mercury. Brittany Griner returns to action. But Seattle, their big 3, Lloyd, Stewart, Langhorne, they combine for 60 points and they grab a win on the road, which they haven't been able to do all year. So with all that in mind, here are your current standings. So let's talk about the playoffs. They're almost here. We've only got a couple weeks left before the regular season is over. Things are really starting to shape up. The Lynx, Sparks, and Sun have all clinched already. And now you've got that added intrigue. Like I said, the Sky finally jumped into first place. And even the Stars, while there's little to no chance of them actually making it, they haven't officially been eliminated last time I checked. And they've actually been playing well and winning a lot of games. So who knows what could happen down the stretch. The Lynx, it's not official yet, but they've all but locked up that number 1 seed. They basically, in order to lose it, they have to lose like every single game from here to the end of the season, and then the Sparks still have to win the majority of theirs. The possibility exists, but it is more of a long shot. It's like 70% sure that the Lynx are gonna hold on to it no matter what. The way they've been playing, it's just hard to see them losing that many games down the stretch. So the Sparks, while it is possible for them to get number 1 and the Connecticut Sun as well, it just doesn't seem all that likely. You know, more than likely LA is just gonna try to win enough games to fend off Connecticut and Washington trying to hold on to their number 2 seed. Because those guys, they're right on their tail, only a couple of games behind. Connecticut, meanwhile, Now, if they keep winning, keep beating a lot of these good teams, and just keep this streak going for a long, long time, they could jump into second place. They could potentially, but not likely, challenge for first place. That being said, they also could fall out of the top 5 completely if they have a very long losing streak. As long as they stay healthy, I don't ever see that happening. But the potential exists. Because not only the Mystics, but the Liberty and the Mercury are still in a good enough position that if they get on a hot streak down the stretch, they could potentially sneak into that top 4 and knock off one of these Eastern Conference powerhouses. So the second round buys are going to the Lynx and the Sparks most likely, but those first round buys still completely up for grabs at this point. Meanwhile, the hunt for those last playoff spots starts to get more interesting. The Stars, they've been out for a long time. Like I said earlier, technically there is a long shot that they could potentially get in if they win out. I don't think anyone actually expects that to happen. The Stars are all but eliminated. The Fever are all but eliminated. The Dream, they're technically still in contention, but the way they're playing right now, it's just hard to expect it. So it's basically at this point a 3-team race between the Wings, the Storm, and the Sky for the 7th and 8th seeds. And the way they're playing right now, I expect the Sky to get in, but with the Storm, if they can play better under Kloppenberg, they can start winning on the road, and they've still got a lot of home games left as well. You know, if they can hit their groove, they've really got a good chance of getting in. Honestly, they have a worse record right now, but I kind of have more faith in them than I do the Wings. The Wings have just been too inconsistent for me to put any hope in them. I do think they spent most of the season floating around 500. It's hard for me to picture them not getting in, but it's also hard for me to say, yes, 100%, I am certain they are going to make it. Also, just wanted to share the news that over the weekend, Sue Bird, she passed Lisa Milton-Jones to take 9th place on the all-time leading scorers list, and she is now only 25 assists behind Tisha Pinachero for the #1 all-time in career assist. So, I've said this before, as long as she stays healthy, she's going to get it with time to spare. Even if she only has 4 or 5 assists every game, she will still get it before the end of the year. So now moving on to the games that are being played this week, I want to only focus on the teams with playoff aspirations. That being said, there's no one, last I checked, that has been officially eliminated, but you know, like with the Atlanta Dream, I don't expect them to get in. They've been on a long losing streak, and from now to the end of the season, especially if they actually do make it into the playoffs, every team they face has a better record than them. It's going to be a tough stretch. For them, the playoffs basically starts now. Including, they have the first game of the week playing against the Sun, the longest winning streak in the league versus the longest losing streak in the league. A team trying to avoid the lottery, trying to fight back into the playoffs versus a team that's trying to get that 2nd seed and maybe potentially make a late push for that #1 seed. And this is why at the beginning of the season I said they would miss Andrew McCautry. Because when it's crunch time, who is going to step up and carry you? Don't get me wrong, they got plenty of talent on their roster, but can they actually finish the season strong? They still have a chance. They are still alive. They're only like half a game behind the 8th seed. But it's a long climb just because of how badly they've been playing. They've got to turn it around quickly against some really good teams. And right above them in the playoff battle, you've got the Storm and the Sky playing each other on Sunday. And no matter what happens the rest of the week, whoever wins this game, they are in the playoffs. And whoever loses this game is going to be that 9th seed most likely. Possibly 10th if Atlanta can string a couple wins together. Most likely 9th though. You've also got some potential playoff previews as you have a few matchups between some of the top seeds. Like on Wednesday, you've got the Sparks versus the Mystics. Then on Friday, you've got the Liberty versus the Sun and the Mercury versus the Mystics. You've got teams that are jockeying for positioning, having to try and beat each other in order to climb up or to hold securely onto the top spot and fend these guys off. I kind of mentioned this a little bit with the Dream facing the Sun. You've got teams that are on the fringe, just fighting desperately for the postseason, that are having to go against top tier teams to try and get their way in. Teams like the Storm going against the Lynx, the Sky going against the Sparks. You've got teams that are right on the edge, that needing to desperately gain ground, and yet you've got to do it against the number 1 and number 2 seeds. Guess what? Life's not fair sometimes. In other news, the sky is blue and water is wet. So yeah, things are getting interesting. We're in the stretch run. It is crunch time. You know, people are punching their tickets, and there are a couple of people that are about to get knocked out completely. If you weren't paying attention before, you need to start paying attention now. Shit just got real. So yeah, that's it for this edition of WNBA Weekly. Tune in next Monday for another all-new episode. And until then, this has been the Fan Perspective. I'm your host, Nathan Lyle. Hope you have a great week.